What's up everyone? Today I want to react to a video. As you can see, the video is called Sound Design is Ruining Your Music by Hack Music Theory, and I already watched this video and I can tell you it is an advertisement for a course that you can take. It's I think it's a music theory learning course so that you can make better music decisions and composition and stuff like that. But this video should not be about that, but it's all about this topic that this video is also about. Is sound design ruining your music, or what does that even mean? First of all, you can see that I like this video, even though you will see that I end up disagreeing with most of the stuff that is said in this video. But I like it because it's a good topic and I actually enjoy talking about topics like that. But one thing you can already see in my recommended videos, there is a lot of stuff that just screams sound design. So yeah, also the Coffee Cantate, BWV 211, a very good song for drinking coffee by Johann Sebastian Bach. But sound design. Sound design is cool and I want to react to this. Also, sorry that I'm reacting to a video. I know that reaction channels sometimes have this weird thing where you say that, well, basically that's lazy content. But I try to make this a bit more than just lazy content. I will not just play this back and sometimes say haha or no or yes. It will be more of a discussion, and I want to invite you to discuss this with me now.
Have you ever opened your digital audio workstation because you're in the mood to make some music,
Sure.
but then you end up spending hours searching for the right bass sound, then feeling frustrated because you wasted hours and didn't even find the right sound? You close your door and open Instagram.
So yeah, that's the point, you know. And since I already know what this video is about and the path that it's taking, then I can tell you why this confused me first. Because I couldn't believe that someone spends hours to tweak some synthesizer to come up with a good bass patch and then just says, whoa, whatever, I will go on Instagram and waste my time now. Because when I spend a lot of time tweaking knobs, that gets me into the flow state. And when I'm in the flow state, I get even wilder, and then at some point my mixing or sound design decisions actually start making sense. Like it might take 3 hours, but after these 3 hours I notice that something has changed in the chemistry of my brain suddenly, and at that point I know, okay, flow state, let's go. And then I can start from scratch, and then it's going really fast. That's me. I will not stop making music and go on Instagram. But the person that the authors of this video talk about works like that. They at some point get frustrated and then they start checking Instagram for whatever reason.
Instead.
If you've ever done that, then we have a huge secret to reveal to you. Forget about sound design. It's probably the worst distraction in the music making process. Now, we're not saying that you shouldn't spend hours on designing the perfect sounds.
Sure.
We're saying that you should not be spending your time trying to design the right bass sound when you haven't even written the bass line yet.
So this is the point, because this video comes from a YouTube channel that is a lot about music theory and not about sound design. They believe that the main thing to do in making music is composing, and it's a good way to compose music, and a lot of good music is based on composition. But there is also a lot of music that is not very based on composition, like psytrance. Not saying that psytrance doesn't have to do anything with composition, it definitely has. But you know, you spend much more time with sound design in that genre. So we can even see some proper sound design here. The person who makes music here definitely has some synthesizer of some sort in the background with a lot of knobs and a very surgical EQ cut here with a non-standard shape. It's not the typical high shelf boost that you see when people are just thinking, what could I do with an equalizer? Maybe add some high end. No, it's not that. It's something more specific. So someone really spends some time here with making music. This is definitely the sound design session. And apparently it happened after the composition session because there is a huge keyboard lying around that was probably used before.
How could anyone possibly know what the right sound is for a bass line they haven't yet written?
That's the thing. You can You can make a sound and then you can afterwards find out what you want to use it for. You might even have thought that you want to use the sound as a bass line, but then end up using it for some high-end screechy lead melody or so. Or even more, you might end up using it for something different, maybe even something polyphonic instead of a monophonic bass, and then you end up sound designing it again because you now have a closer idea of what you want to do with it. And it might be a back and forth process between these two stages without saying that one of them is better than the other one, without polarizing it.
Working on sound design before you've written the music is like mastering before you've mixed.
See, and that's the thing. That's where our opinions differ. I already just said that it can be a back and forth thing, and that's the same for the other stages as well. For example, you might start mixing your track, but then you notice that the sounds that you chose are clashing with each other, or that the melodies are just not good yet. So you stop mixing and you go back to the sound design and composition stage and do something, and then later you go on with the mixing. Or you might start mastering, so you smash the signal with a huge limiter or some compression. Then you notice, I can't really get it to sound loud. Now that I'm compressing the shit out of it, it is kind of starting to fall apart. So you remove the compressor again, or the limiter, and go back to the mixing stage. It might be the case. And it doesn't even have to be such an extreme case. You might already have had a limiter on the master channel and you just wanted to turn it up a little bit higher, but you can't because it doesn't sound better. So you go a bit lower. You don't turn it off completely, but you still go back to the mixing stage because you have to fix some of the individual things before you can go on with the mastering stage. Yeah, that can happen. That's just normal that you can go back and forth between these stages.
Yes, mastering is essential, but it needs to happen after the mixing. Same with sound design. Yes, it's essential, but it needs to happen after the writing. And of course, the sound you choose will usually affect what you write for it. For example, the line you'd write for a bass guitar will be different to the one you'd write for a bass synth.
Now that's the thing. So you have chosen a sound, but not by sound designing it, but via a preset. And considering that it's true that the melodies derive from the sound that you've chosen, that means if you have chosen a sound that a lot of other people also have access to, then you are likely to write generic melodies as well. So why would you say that this is a good thing, right?
But, and it's a big but, will the line you'd write for a Fender 4-string bass guitar be different to the one you'd write for a Gibson 4-string bass guitar? No! And that's exactly why you should use presets when writing.
Simply decide if the melody you want to write is for a bass guitar or a bass synth. Then choose a preset that's kind of close to what you want and get writing. Then
they are basically saying don't be too surgical at the beginning. And there might be some truth to it, but you have to find a nice balance of that. It's not as easy as sound design, no presets, yes. It can also be something in the middle. Like you do sound design, but you don't start with the LFOs yet, but just dial in the basic, more or less, filter amount also, and that's it. And you might come back to it later or so. That's also a good approach.
when you're happy with your
Talking about synthesizers only here because that's my main thing, of course. But I think you can apply a similar logic to switching amp sims.
bassline, don't start sound designing it. Not yet. You're still in the writing stage, so move on to your drums. And use the same approach here.
If I use a preset sound and then write a melody to the preset sound and then make drums for that, then I cannot change the bass tone a lot anymore after that because I have made my drums to sound good with that exact bass sound. Maybe the bass sound had a very strong frequency at 80 hertz, a very strong sound at 80 hertz, and the drums then have one at 100 hertz so that they don't clash. But then I decide that the bassline sound is not cool, so I make a new one and it suddenly is at 100 hertz, so I have to change the drums as well. So you see that can be problematic as well, so it's not the ultimate approach that is just over everything else.
Do you want a realistic sounding drum kit or an electronic kit?
but I'm not stressing this. It's I think both approaches are good. It's just that none of them are perfect. They all have their pros and cons.
Choose a preset that's in the ballpark of what you want, then get writing.
Then continue on to the next instrument and the next. Chords, melody, counter melody, then move on to the next section. Keep going, stay focused, don't start sound designing until you've completely finished writing. You see, when you're writing music, you're in this sublime state known as flow.
See, and that's where we agree. That's where I agree with the YouTubers who made this video. It's all about getting into the flow state, because in the flow state your brain suddenly has more abilities. You can compose better, you can sound design better, you can make better decisions in general. You're working faster, you're working with more focus. The flow state is just great. It's just that different people get into the flow state in different ways, and that's what this video is forgetting about for some reason.
This is where time disappears. You and your music are one. In fact, there is no you anymore, just oneness.
Yeah.
The flow state is the ultimate high, but it can be lost in a split second. And one of the easiest ways to lose it is to switch tasks.
Now that's the thing where it gets a little bit weird, because just a moment before this section about the flow state, he said, or she, I don't know anymore, that you should work fast. You should move from one instrument to the next very fast. So you are switching tasks really fast. But I know that they are talking about switching tasks in the sense of sound design and then Instagram. But the thing is, switching tasks happens all the time, even during making music, because you have to change your mindset when you're doing something differently. Like in one moment you might be EQing, and the next moment you are compressing, then you are sound designing again, and then you suddenly think to yourself that the snare doesn't have enough fundamental frequency, and suddenly the vocals are too harsh or something like that. It's all different mindsets that you are switching between. It's different tasks. And that shouldn't bring you out of the flow state. It should excite you, because you are a musician and you are working with sound.
Also, you're exponentially more creative when you're in the flow state.
Yeah.
So you can massively improve your creativity and therefore your music by simply focusing on the writing process exclusively.
So how did the one thing to lead to the other? It's not clear to me.
And avoiding distractions like sound design.
However, it's vital that you actually know the method for writing a song from start to finish, especially when it comes to how you write a new section for an existing section, how you transition between sections, and how you structure and arrange your song.
I have no idea how that relates to sound design or composition, because for me that is the arrangement section, the arrangement stage of making music. But yeah, that's also important, that's true.
So, if you want to learn Ray's secret method, which he has used to make music with multi-platinum, Grammy-winning artists, then enroll in our video course over at hackmusictheory.com/courses.
Alright, so let's just put this image here because it's not so bright. Yeah. I just think this video is too much of a black and white thinking thing. I know they are doing that on purpose because they want to sell their product. They can say like, oh, by the way, your workflow might be alright, but just in case that it might not be alright, do our course? Of course, they can't do that. But still, it's a bit weird that you have to talk like that just to sell a course. I mean, why is it like that? Are we all so insecure that we have to exaggerate all the time in order to sell something? I guess that's the reason why I can't sell stuff. But I just don't want to be so one-sided. I don't know. I bet these people also know that it's a bit one-sided. I wouldn't have to tell them. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation because ads like that are all over the place nowadays, and I just don't like it. The course might be great. I don't know. I haven't been there, and obviously they know what they are doing when they are working with such expensive gear. They must have bought that from the money from earlier projects that were successful. So they can't be bad. Their work must be good. I'm just saying that this video is a little bit weird and a little bit one-sided, and probably doesn't live up to the standards of the people who actually do give the course. But I guess they just made the video and then they thought to themselves, well, that will do it. Let's not do it again. Yeah. And maybe it was also a bit the idea to make a controversial statement. Maybe they thought to themselves, yeah, we know that it's not entirely true what we're saying, but we just wanted to get people clicking on the video because it worked. You know, when I saw that title, I just thought to myself, what? You are fighting sound design. I have to do something against that. And I did. Yeah. So we all know it's a silly game. It's the silly YouTuber, influencer trying to be successful game where you have to make clickbait titles and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. That was my response to this video.